hard thing with plumbing, if you haven't really done it before, is knowing like what system you're going to use, and that could be purely dictated by the people that you buy the product from. We're using ducts. Get that into focus. We're using a ducts system that's been kindly provided from Plumbing World. So this is the system that they stock, so I mean that's the way we're going. It's in New Zealand, it's a pretty common system, and most plumbing supply places and DIY stores supply this system. So yeah, I found the hardest thing when you're learning how to do this is to figure out all the different fittings and what they do and how you can achieve what you want to achieve. So what we're doing here, we're using, I've got some old fittings here. You can see these have actually already been used, and later on I'll show you how to recycle those. They can be reused because being brass and with these copper sort of crimping rings, they're not the cheapest things in the world, so it's good to reuse those. And of course also you can buy brand spanky shiny ones. Pipe wise, this uses this grey pipe. It's poly, it's poly something, I can't remember. There, so we're going with 15mm. So this comes in 12, 15, 20, I think, yeah, 25 as well. This is what's most commonly used in domestic homes. It obviously, the different diameter affects your flow rate. So this will be ample for what we need to do, this will be fine. And 15 is the most common, so there's the most amount of fittings available, which can help you as well. So this comes in either a roll like this, I think is that 50 metres? Can't remember, something or other. And this basically, when you start uncoiling this, it actually does uncoil. It's got a bit of a curve in it, but it basically comes out quite straight, so it's actually not too bad. You think that would be horrible to deal with, but it's actually alright. And you can also buy it in like 5 metre straight lengths as well, which is probably potentially a bit nicer if you do want a real nice straight run. But I mean, most of the time you can't even see this stuff, it's in the walls. So the good thing about plumbing retailers is they're pretty good. Like, you can go in and get an account signed up with them, which is pretty easy. It's just form filling kind of stuff. They're all pretty good. And what you can do when you've got an account is you can grab all the things that you think you might need, which is potentially going to be way too many items, but just bring them a lot, just grab them all anyway, use what you need to use, and you'll probably still find you're missing stuff, so you have to race back. And then they're usually pretty good about bringing the product back and obviously getting a refund on that price. So if you're paying monthly, it makes it quite easy if you do it sort of over the month. Yeah, because I find with plumbing you have a bit of a plan in your head and you start doing it, and it tends to all change a bit. I suppose that's where the experience comes in. So after thinking about this for another 2 hours, I've completely changed tack, and the routing of the pipes completely different. So I was saying before about changing your ideas. Now all my fittings are wrong, I'm probably going to go back to Plumbing World. It's all good. So now I'm going down instead of around, basically. So I need a tap for the washing machine, like so you can isolate that obviously and turn it on and off. And I'm using one of these, so where the ducts Secure Gold standard fittings, 15mm, 15mm thread, female. That will go in there, bit of thread tape. So this is, I suppose, a sort of a double wing back So it could either go that way or that way. So I'm going to pop that this way. So my taps are going to sit out the side here, just above the washing machine. So the washing machine will be just here, and the hoses will come up into these taps here. So I just want that flush. There's going to be some plywood lining here, so I'll just put this flush, and then we'll cut a hole here and screw in, put a little cover plate. So when you're fitting these taps, actually any plumbing, you just want to make sure you've got enough room to like do things up or get a wrench in there, or in this case, yeah, make sure they don't clash when you turn them, and there's enough room to actually get a couple of pipes on there. So just I mean, just try it and think about it. And you'll probably get it wrong, and then you redo it. So if you're going to be doing a bit of plumbing, I'd highly recommend getting a set of these. These are pipe cutters. And what they do, funnily enough, is cut pipe. See, like that's been cut, I don't know if you can see that, but that's been cut with a hacksaw, and it's rough and not square, and there's bits hanging off and burrs, and yeah, it's not great. But these here, just boom, boom, boom. Look at that, quick. So I got those on eBay, I think. They come from China for about 30 bucks or something, 40 bucks maybe. They're quite good, heavy duty ones, and yeah, they've had a lot of use already. So these secure gold fittings, they have these protective plastic caps. They are disposable, recyclable, and then they've got this copper ring that sits around there, and that comes off. Put that on. Those sight holes go this way, so you can see when you put the pipe in. Let's see, you can see the pipe through there. So quite simple really. Plug them in. And the sort of good thing about this system is you can rough it all out first. So you can pop them in, but you don't need to commit to tightening that up yet, just in case you need to change things. And I'm just using pipe that I've had offcuts and bits and pieces lying around. You just got to be a bit careful, just check that there's no massive defects in it, or burred, or it's crushed, or the UV's got to it. So Loss has got, whoa, okay, that's not screwed in. I just unscrewed that so I could get in there. So Loss has got the lawnmower going, is what I was saying, so just bear with me. So you want to sort of pre-pipe those in the hole, get that up there, yep, that looks good. Chop it off. Think about your hot and cold, which way around. In this case, it don't really matter. So, check out the video floating around on the screen, reusing these. When you've got your pipe all laid out and you're ready to crimp these, you need a set of these. These are pipe crimpers. Again, you can get them at your local plumbing store or DIY store. I ended up buying this set, 15mm. Obviously you've got to have different ones for different sizes. There'll be a 20mm, 28mm. And you can also, again, if you've got an account with one of the plumbing suppliers, you can, most of the time you can like borrow them for a day or two at no extra cost, or you can at Plumbing World anyway, which is pretty handy. Because I guess it's not a tool that you're gonna, unless you're doing quite a bit of it, it might not be worth buying. So anyway, these rings here are copper, and they pop on there. So what this does is basically bites down on the copper and squeezes it, and squeezes the pipe in between the copper and the brass. So you can see those grooves on there and ridges. Those ridges want to be in nice good condition because that's what it seals on. So what you want to do, open those up by pulling that handle back, opens the jaws, hold that with the other hand, pop that on just loosely, make sure that the crimp ring's close to the copper fitting, and just squeeze like so. And I usually try to take a couple of 2 or 3 bites at it on different angles just to make sure. And there you go. So you can see where it's bit down here, nice and hard, and I mean that there shouldn't be going anywhere. So we're down at the vanity here, and I just need to go through the wall down here, so I've already drilled the hole. So you can get these kind of through wingback connections. They screw here into the wall, and then there's a 15mm female thread here. So I'll be able to put a flexible hose straight into that onto a nipple. So it's quite nice. So you just want to overcut the pipe so it's longer than it needs to be. So we're just putting the swing back that I showed you before on the end in the right spot. So another thing to check when you're running your pipe is to just have in consideration which is your hot and which is your cold. So it's a good idea to label the pipes as well, so you know what's what and you don't get confused. So you see on this particular mixer, and pretty much all mixers really, they say which is hot and which is cold. So that goes that way, so that dictates that my right hand side is the cold side. So a good way to remember why the need to have a clean up. So a good way to remember why the right tap is always the cold tap, is back in the old days before they had hot water but they did have cold water, they always put the tap on the right hand side because most people are right handed, so that's the way it ended up. So when they introduced a hot tap, that naturally went on to the left hand side where there was space. So that's how I remember it. Make sure it's alright. You do have to watch, so the pipe's always got a natural bend, and sometimes that can throw you out a bit. Another thing to watch, you don't want to obviously crimp this like that, because you could have turned that in, it's not going to work. So you've got to make sure, if you do it this way, that everything's all pointing in the right direction. See, it's just way easier to get to the pipe. So we'll just check it again, just make sure. You've also got to work out your depth this way as well. You obviously don't want these hanging out too far, otherwise these cover plates aren't going to cover it, and you don't want it too far in, otherwise you're not going to be able to thread into anything. So we're outside now. Let's show you what we're doing with the connection to the outside world, so where our water's coming from. I found one of these connections kicking around, which is a 15mm female thread, and a little coupling on the end, and that clips on there, and then we crump that on there. So what I'm going to do is put that actually up underneath this utility box, and then I'll put a tap on the bottom here, so that screws into there, and that'll sit out underneath like that. That gets 2 screws up into it, up through here. So the advantage of that is having a tap so you can isolate the tiny house, which is a good thing. If something goes wrong with the system, you can shut it off relatively quickly and easily. It also allows for a drainage point, so if you have that unconnected and you need a drain down the system, you need to add to it, do some maintenance, whatever it might be, you can undo that, and that will let, being the lowest point in the tiny house, that'll let all the water out of the system. So that's actually quite handy. So now we've got all the pipe work run and all the connections made. Now it's time to test the system, and that involves putting some water in it, in our case under some pump pressure, and just check for any leaks. These connections here, you can use a bung like this and thread them in here. So you just want to get some thread tape. The way I work this out, I'm sure there's heaps of ways to work this out, is that's going to spin in that way clockwise. So you put the tape on anti-clockwise. So and then you can wrap this round. It kind of varies depending on what you're connecting to. I find with these ones probably about 4 times is fine. And these here are just temporary as well. These will come out later when we connect up the fittings, so you don't need to go too crazy. So you want to see now the thread tape's going this way, it's going to spin in that way, and that just means that it's not going to unwind itself. There's no way when it's spinning that way it can never unwind. Just snug those up. They don't have to be ridiculously tight, because that thread tape's doing the sealing. I know some plumbers still use horsehair, which is the old school way of doing it. Basically the same thing. Put some actual horsehair, they wrap it round and screw it in, and what the horsehair does when it gets wet is it expands. Yeah, I think it's the old school way. I've just always used this. So I'll just run you around with what I've got. So we've got these 2 connections here, the hot and cold for the washing machine. They go down under the tiny house, and we've got a very similar thing going on here. Got 2 connections, hot and cold, for the kitchen sink. These here, the cabinetry is going to be in here, so I've left these 2 sort of floating. Not 100% sure where they're going to go yet, but they're just going to be in the cabinetry somewhere. And then we've got down here bathroom vanity, hot and cold. And then up here we've got the shower, hot and cold there. Now we'll go outside. So the water's just coming in at the moment just for a garden hose. This wouldn't be the way when you're living here, because you don't want to drink water through a garden hose. It's not good for you. So it's just connected with a quick fit just into there with a tap. Now, one thing I didn't think about is taps are designed to go this way, not that way. So when I hook that up, of course, no water was flowing at all. So I'm going to have to get, instead of a tap, I'll use a valve or something here. I'll go into Plumbing World and just see what we can suss out. It's a bit of a shame because that's actually worked out quite well under there. So anyway, what I did is just undid this here and took the valve out, so there's no tap there at the moment. From there we've got the cold coming up, teeing into the cold line, up and around. And at the moment I've just got this joint in a loop just for testing, but that cold there will go to the caliphant within time, and then it'll come, obviously the hot will come back around on the top there, and those are tees going into for the shower. Come down to here. It's a bit dark up in there. Oh, I can feel something dripping. Oh no, it's just the waste. And then come up through around here. I put a join there because I ran out of length and I had a few joiners lying around, so I just joined it. Ideally you wouldn't do that, but that's just to the washing machine, so it doesn't matter. So now we're under pressure here. We've got a pump going pretty hard, so it's a pretty good way to check. Usually plumbers, they've got like a pressurized system that they pressure it right up to, I can't remember, more pressure than this. That's ideally what you'd use. So obviously you want to check this for water tightness at this stage. You don't want to do it after you've lined it and realise you've got a leak. Oh, that one there's actually a little bit, see that one there's got a little bit of water dripping down. So that's obviously leaking from somewhere, or it's dripping down from that one. We'll just have to watch, see what's going on there. We might have to just give it a bit of a recrimp. You can see those guys there are looking pretty sweet. And those guys there are looking good. When you turn the water on, I think this just happens every time. Every time. Always forget to do something up. There's always one. And you best have someone else turn the water on and you stand at the danger end and yell out if it's not going very well. So I turned this on and forgot to do these two up. And it blew that apart and just sprayed water everywhere, as you can see. So I just rushed back out and turned that off. It happens every time. You always miss one or two. Again, those, see, and then everything gets wet and you can't tell what's going on. But that's why we'll leave that on for a while, and we'll just let, it's a warm day, we'll let all that dry out. Also a good idea is, because when you first put water into the system there's a whole lot of air in there. So I've just put a couple of taps on this longer section here. Oi. And just to let that air out, which I've already done, that's why there's no air coming out. So that now completes the pre-line plumbing stage. After we've lined the tiny house will be the final fit. We'll be fitting things like taps and the waste. So stay tuned for another video on how to do all that.